You don't belong at this counter. Step back. Do you hear me? Step back, now.
Freeze on a downtown bank counter, a teller jabs a finger, policy, guests only, red stamp, denied. Cut to a blackceo.com, already dialing. On-screen clock, 7. He doesn't argue. Low voice, log everything, split screen, Q monitor, badge, blurred CRM. The supervisor smirks, motioning security. Crowd phones rise. Tick 642. Intercom, step away from the counter. He shows a card, board rep. Tick 558. Speakerphone clicks. Ops online. Resolve this on system? He nods. Proceed. The countdown rolls. The camera opens on a busy downtown bank lobby in the early afternoon. Fluorescent light, a glass counter, a cue screen that shows estimated wait times and window numbers. At window 3, a teller pushes a stack of documents back across the glass and points to a laminated policy card. He says it is guests only and says they are following risk rules. A red stamp on the paperwork reads denied. The word is large enough to fill the frame, and it lingers for a beat before the sound snaps back to the room. The black CEO is in frame on the public side of the counter. He keeps his voice level and asks which policy and which section. No one answers. He does not repeat himself. He reaches for his phone. He places a slim badge on the counter so it stays in view. The badge shows his name and role as a board representative for a corporate client program. He taps one number. The screen records the time as 2:13 in the afternoon. He says 3 words into the phone, log everything. The camera cuts to the supervisor standing a few feet behind the teller, arms folded, a small smile that reads as, "We have this under control." She gestures to the guard at the door. The overhead intercom clicks on with a short tone, and a generic recorded line asks non-clients to step away from the counter. Several customers in the lobby turn. 2 raise their phones. One person in line whispers that they have seen this before. The lobby goes a little quiet in that way crowds do when something might happen. A digital clock animates on screen. 7 minutes remain. The numbers are clean and simple, no music swell, just the tick of time. The CEO does not raise his voice. He puts the phone on speaker and rests it next to the badge and the stamped form. He asks for operations, he asks for legal, he states the branch address and the window number. He requests a pull of CCTV from 210 to 220 and requests queue data and terminal activity for window 3. He asks if the CRM shows his client profile. He stops speaking and lets the line verify. Back to the counter. The teller shakes his head and repeats that the system is flagging a risk. The camera cuts to the monitor behind the glass where a standard dashboard is open. Rows and columns, nothing dramatic. In the reflection on the glass, you can see a junior banker a few seats over glance at the screen and then at the CEO. He looks uneasy. He leans toward his keyboard as if to check something himself. The camera holds for a second so the audience notices him without any voiceover telling them what to think. Operations answers on speaker. A calm voice states that they are live and asks if the matter should be resolved on system. The CEO says, proceed. The voice asks for permission to access profile data and branch logs. The CEO says, authorized. The supervisor hears this and steps closer. She reminds the teller to follow procedure. The teller nods and points toward the lobby line again. The guard takes a small half step forward but does not touch anyone. The crowd phones stay up. The camera cuts to the cue screen. It shows windows 1 and 2 moving while 3 remain idle. The countdown drops to 6 minutes and changes. Operations narrates what they are seeing, profile found, verification on file, approved transactions this month, incoming wire last week at 7 figures, no watch list flags. The room sound lowers so the operations voice is clear. The supervisor's smile fades a degree. The teller looks back at his screen and taps a few keys without saying anything. The CEO waits. He does not fill the silence. Intercom again. The same recorded line. The CEO asks operations to mark the intercom audio for export with time codes. He asks to log the supervisor instruction to call security. He asks to compare the arrival order using the ticketing timestamps. He asks whether other customers without appointments were served in the last 10 minutes. Operations says they can check. The junior banker clears his throat and says quietly that window 2 took a walk up just now. The supervisor gives him a look that says, stay out of it. He looks down and keeps working. 5 minutes remain. The camera pushes in on the badge and the phone and the denied stamp sitting together on the glass. No music, just the clock and room tone and the distant click of keyboards. The CEO speaks once more. He asks operations to notify regional management that he is present on site and that he is requesting a standards review. The voice on the phone acknowledges and asks to keep the line open. The CEO confirmed. The final beat of the segment is held on the teller's hand. It hovers over the stamp as if to use it again. The hand hesitates. The clock keeps ticking. The audience knows what is coming, but the video does not rush. The hook ends here with a simple image. A quiet client. A loud denial, a system waking up, and a countdown that just keeps moving. By the time the minute hand clicks toward 2:15, the lobby's rhythm is out of sync. Window 1 calls ticket B54, window 2 calls B55, window 3 stays blank while the teller holds the returned paperwork like it might bite him. The standard poster behind the counter mentions equal service and a complaint hotline. The camera lingers on the poster long enough for viewers to clock the irony. Then it slides down to the laminated badge still sitting on the glass beside the phone. Clean, readable, ordinary as office stationery. Operations remains on speaker. Their tone is steady, like a help desk that has seen everything. They verify legal name, last four of a business tax ID already on file, and a corporate account number tied to payroll and vendor payments. They confirm a service tier labeled private banking with recurring meetings with an account officer. The lobby noise dips under a soft filter so every on-system confirmation lands. Approved identification. Signature card matched. Last 3 transactions normal. No fraud case open. The supervisor tries a reset. She steps into frame and says the branch is short-staffed and that walk-ins cannot be assisted at this counter. She points to a kiosk where people can make appointments. The camera pans to the kiosk. The screen shows earliest availability on Friday. It is Tuesday. Operations hears her. They ask if the branch has activated overflow protocols. She says yes. The cue screen contradicts her. All windows except 3 keep moving, and the counter where the CEO stands reads idle. A junior banker 2 stations down, name tag Jamal, watches the queue monitor and the CRM sidebar at once. He notices a flag on the profile that reads Board Representative on file with permissions to authorize service escalations. He glances at the supervisor, then at the phone on the counter. He does not speak loudly. He just says that the profile has an escalation note. The room hears him anyway. The supervisor answers in a neutral tone that staff should not interpret notes without management guidance. The choice of words is careful. The temperature of the room goes up a degree without anyone raising a voice. Operations asks to confirm the identity used at check-in. The CEO slides a state ID through the pass slot. The teller scans it, clears his throat, and says the system is slow. The scan completes in less than 2 seconds. The viewer hears the beep. Operations reads the verification timestamp back to the room. The teller's eyes shift to the left. He places the ID back on the counter with a practiced motion, the kind you do hundreds of times a week, and says the policy still applies. The phrase still echoes with the recorded intercom line from earlier. The camera cuts to the guard at the door. He is not aggressive. He is doing what he has been told to do. He asks people to give space and keep the line clear. Phones continue recording, but no one steps past the rope. The CEO does not move. He does not ask for sympathy. He only asks operations to mark an incident case and to tag every system that touched his profile or queue entry today. He names them one by one so the audience hears the stack. CRM, ticketing, teller, terminal, intercom controller, CCTV server, badge access at the side door. Operations starts reading what the logs show in the last 5 minutes. Ticket B56 was called out of order to window 2. Note field reads walked in, need quick help. Window 3 opened a new note at 2:13 without attaching a transaction. It reads guest only, not on list. On the audio track, you can hear the supervisor take a breath and instruct the teller to stand by. She says a manager will review. Operations asks who the manager on duty is. She gives her name and employee number. That small detail matters, and the voiceover lets it hang in the air. The clock lands at 5:36. The CEO looks straight ahead, not at the teller, not at the crowd, but at the invisible line where procedure either works or it does not. He gives one instruction that clarifies the next act. Please notify regional operations that I am exercising the right to a standards review on site, effective now, and request that all non-essential activity at this branch be paused pending verification. The words are simple, the effect is immediate. A new chime enters the audio mix, a secure call tone, quiet but unmistakable. The audience knows what it means. Authority is about to arrive on the line, and the branch is no longer the only room in play. The secure tone stabilizes on speaker. A second voice joins, lower, measured, introducing herself as regional operations. She confirms the branch number, the physical address, and the camera zones covering the lobby and teller line. The countdown lands at 5 minutes flat. The supervisor steps closer to the glass and tells the CEO the branch cannot host filming. He answers that he is not filming. He points at the phones in the crowd without looking away from the counter. Operations says copy and notes that the CEO is on speaker and that the room is public access. The supervisor attempts a policy pivot. She says the private banking counter is appointment only. Operations asks her to state the last 15 minutes of ticket calls by window. She hesitates. The junior banker Jamal reads them from the queue screen anyway. B54, B55, B56 to window 2, B57 to window 1, no calls for window 3. He adds that window 3 opened a note at 2:13 instead of a transaction. The teller stiffens. The supervisor corrects Jamal by title and says only managers interpret logs. Operations replies that they are interpreting logs. The guard receives a hand signal and positions near the rope. He does not touch anyone. The intercom repeats the recorded line telling non-clients to step away. The CEO asks operations to duplicate the intercom audio and write a clip to the incident case with exact timestamps. He asks to overlay the audio cues on the CCTV timeline for later review. Operations confirms. The teller taps the stamp and asks the CEO to leave the counter. The CEO says he will stand as long as he is on the line with operations. He keeps his hands visible next to his badge and the form. Regional operations asks if the branch is currently in overflow. The supervisor says yes. Regional asks which protocol number. She pauses, then says the standard one. Regional asks her to state the code printed on the overflow poster behind her. The camera frames the poster. The code is 8 characters and ends with a C. The supervisor says a different suffix. Regional says understood and writes that to the case. The room hears the click of a keyboard over the line. At 4 minutes 20, the tone of the branch shifts. A printer in the back spits a page, and a manager on duty who has not been visible steps into the frame. Speaking quietly into a headset, he asks what the issue is. The supervisor answers for him and says there is a potential fraud and a disruption. Regional asks him to identify himself with employee number. He complies. Regional asks if he has reviewed the CRM profile on the counter right now. He has not. She asks him to do so. He leans toward a terminal and logs in. The teller tries to reclaim the narrative by pointing to a short list taped beneath his monitor that reads guests only, appointment only, fraud alerts escalate. He taps the first line with a pen. The camera stays on the pen. Operations begins reading the actual CRM flags aloud. Profile shows board representative on file for the corporate client. Profile shows private banking tier. Profile shows verified credentials and a service escalation note. Profile shows an incoming wire last week in 7 figures. Profile shows no active alerts. The teller stops tapping the pen. Jamal clears his throat and in a level tone states that window 2 just took another walk up. The cue chime is audible. The supervisor says thank you and tells him to focus on his own tasks. Jamal faces his screen and continues working, but the camera catches his reflection in the privacy glass. He is watching the data, not the faces. 3 minutes 30. Regional asks the guard to stand by the exit but not to engage. She states that the branch will honor the standards review request. She asks the manager on duty to pause new walk-ups at window 3 and to route essential transactions to other windows. She asks the teller for the last time to state his basis for denial with a policy number and section. The teller says guests only again and mentions fraud risk in general language. Regional asks him to cite the system field. He cannot. Regional says thank you and says that is sufficient. The The supervisor tries a final angle. She says the room feels unsafe. The audio under the dialogue is calm. There is no raised voice, no pushing, no crowd surge. The line records that. The CEO says one sentence. Please mark that claim and pair it with sound and video. Regional says, done. She asks the manager on duty to collect the tellers and the supervisor's user sessions for export. She requests that their access be reviewed by compliance pending outcome. She keeps her voice even. There is no threat in her words. There is only one process. The countdown drops under 3 minutes. The CEO does not move. He asks if Regional wants him to step aside for customer flow. Regional says the flow can adapt and instructs the branch to post a simple notice at the door about a temporary standards review in progress. Jamal stands, prints the notice, and tapes it up. He does it without commentary. He returns to his seat and opens a form labeled Service Standards Case Note. The camera holds a second. It lets the audience see that the system has started to write this room down in hard lines and timestamps. Regional asks the manager on duty to mirror his screen to the back office projector for record. He complies. The projector throws a clean CRM dashboard onto a frosted wall behind the teller line. The camera frames both the live counter and the mirrored data in one shot so the audience can track what is being said against what is being shown. The countdown reads 2 minutes 50. Regional asks the manager to open the profile summary, then the permissions tab, then the service escalation note. The cursor moves, the fields populate, it is all routine, and that routine is the point. The supervisor says they do not disclose client information in public. Regional answers that only metadata necessary to resolve a standards request is being displayed and that the recording will be held in compliance custody. She asks the manager to scroll to the contact of record. The name on the screen matches the badge on the counter. The title line matches the board representative designation. The camera does not zoom for drama. It just lets people read. Operations adds the queue log to the case. The entries line up with what Jamal said earlier. Walk-ups at window 2. No calls for window 3. A note with no transaction at 2:13. Regional asks the teller whether he has received any fraud alert message in his terminal today tied to this profile. The teller says he has concerns and does not feel comfortable. Regional asks again for the message ID, the code, or any reference text. The teller cannot provide one. The manager on duty looks at the projector and sees a field labeled Alerts with a 0. He stops speaking. The intercom chime plays, and the recorded line tries to run. Regional instructs the branch to disable non-emergency intercom announcements for the next 10 minutes and to avoid generalized messaging that could be construed as ejecting a specific client without basis. The guard nods and steps back to his original post. The crowd noise returns to normal lobby hum. Cameras stay up, but hands lower slightly. 2 minutes even. Regional asks the manager to open the transaction history and verify the last inbound wire and the last verification event. The screen shows last week's wire with 7 figures and a verification event this morning on a different device. Operations reads off the device ID and the time. The room hears that the institution already validated identity today. The supervisor tries to say the local branch still has discretion. Regional acknowledges discretion within policy and asks for the policy citation. The supervisor quotes a training phrase without a number. Regional asks again for the number. She cannot provide it. Operations adds that the training phrase is not itself a policy. Jamal has been quiet. He speaks once to say that the 3 letters in the corner of the CRM indicate a VIP routing rule. He says it once, flat, then stops. The manager on duty turns to look at him. Regional asks Jamal to read the rule as displayed on his own terminal and to confirm it matches the projector. He does. It matches. Regional asks him to add a line to the case log that an associate observed the rule and that the branch flow did not follow it. He types the sentence, time-stamped to the second, 1 minute 20. Regional tells the supervisor that pending completion of the standards review, the teller and supervisor sessions will be suspended. She instructs the manager to save all unsent work and to prepare to log out. She tells operations to push a temporary freeze flag on non-essential activity tied to this branch so other locations can absorb traffic. The language is neutral. The effect is clear. On the cue screen, window 2 pauses, the printer stops, the lobby hears only quiet, and the clock The CEO has not changed posture. He asks if the branch would like him to relocate to a conference room to keep the counter clear, provided the line remains open and the badge remains in view of a camera. Regional says that is acceptable. The supervisor starts to object, then stops. The manager on duty nods and points to a glass room 10 feet away. The CEO moves there without ceremony. The phone and badge go with him. Jamal carries a small stand, so the phone sits upright. He does not smile, nod, or seek credit. He goes back to his seat under 1 minute. Regional asks a final time if there is any valid basis to deny service under policy and cites the numeric section covering access for verified account representatives at the private banking counter. The manager on duty answers no. The supervisor does not speak. The teller's hand rests next to the stamp but does not touch it. Operations states that the case now contains CRM screenshots, Q logs, device verification, CCTV markers, and intercom audio references. Regional says they will issue a decision on the line. The countdown continues down through the 50s, a calm metronome. The branch has said enough. The systems will do the rest. Regional takes a breath that the mic barely catches and reads the standard language for a live standards decision. The countdown shows 48 seconds. She confirms that identity is verified, authority to act is verified, service tier is correct, and no active alerts exist. She cites the numeric section for verified representatives at the private banking counter and says the branch has not followed it. She asks the manager on duty to acknowledge. He does. She asks the supervisor to acknowledge. There is a long second of silence, then a quiet yes. She issues the first directive. Terminate. Effective immediately, the teller at window 3 and the shift supervisor will have user sessions ended and physical access deactivated pending HR review. Operations pushes a command. The teller's terminal drops to a login screen. The supervisor's terminal does the same. Their badges will no longer open internal doors. The guard does not move to touch them. No one raises a voice. The room simply adjusts around the fact that 2 screens have gone dark. Second directive, freeze. Regional instructs operations to place a temporary freeze on non-essential branch activity for the next 24 hours while an audit runs. Essential transactions will be routed to sister locations and mobile staff will handle priority items. The queue screen updates. A banner reads routing in progress. Jamal stands to redirect a couple who have been waiting. His tone is even. He offers them the option to finish at window 1 or receive a call from a banker in 30 minutes. They nod and choose the call. He schedules it while the camera watches the cursor move. Third directive, log. Regional tells operations to export the following with timestamps and attached to the case. CRM profile summary and permission flags, queue calls for the last 30 minutes, notes created at window 3, device verification from this morning, CCTV clips covering the lobby and teller line from 2:10 to 2:20, and intercom audio played in that same window. She asks the manager on duty to preserve a copy of the training materials referenced by the supervisor and teller. She tells him to forward the template used at the kiosk that showed Friday as the earliest appointment time. He says he will. Operations reads back a case number and a secure link. The countdown drops under 30 seconds. Regional asks the CEO if he wants to proceed with his original request. He says yes. The manager on duty escorts him to the same conference room as before, but now with a different posture. He carries a folder and a legal pad. He asks whether the CEO would prefer to complete the task in person or have it executed by a remote officer and confirmed by email. The CEO asks which is faster and cleanest for audit. The manager says remote is faster. The CEO says remote then, and asks that Jamal be allowed to observe for learning because he followed the data and stayed within his lane. Regional approves that and notes it to the case. She tells operations to grant temporary observer access to Jamal for this session. Jamal's screen adds a small read-only badge. He does not react beyond a small nod. No one would notice if the camera did not hold the shot an extra beat. The manager on duty begins to fill out the request using a standard form. He reads each field out loud. He asks for any clarifications. The CEO answers with brief, precise statements without extra chatter. Out in the lobby, the teller stands with his hands behind the counter. The supervisor stares at the projector image that still shows 0 alerts and a green check. She begins to say something about perceptions and comfort. Regional records the sentence to the case and asks her if she wants to add a specific concern based on a rule or an event. She does not. Regional says that HR and compliance will contact both employees for interviews and that counsel will be present. She reminds them that the record will include their statements and that deviation from policy does not require bad intent to be corrected. The phrasing is dry and exact on purpose. The guard asks if he should remain. Regional says yes until the branch receives the audit notice by email and posts it publicly for the day. Jamal prints the notice with a clear line stating that services continue through sister locations and mobile bankers. He tapes it at the door next to business hours. The camera lets the frame breathe. The lobby feels ordinary again. People have choices. The system is the loudest voice. The countdown touches 0 and fades from the screen. No swell of music. Regional thanks everyone for staying on the line and says the standards decision is in effect. She will remain connected while the remote officer completes the CEO's request and will take an email confirmation into the case. The CEO looks at the camera for the first time. He speaks so quietly it almost does not register. Thank you for the standards. Then he looks back at the manager and continues with the business he came to do. The remote officer comes on a separate secure line and confirms the exact request the CEO came to complete. The manager on duty reads back each field as he enters it: account number, purpose, dollar amount, recipients, verification channel. The remote officer confirms strong match on all factors and asks for a final yes. The CEO gives it. The email confirmation pings the case inbox 2 minutes later with a PDF and a hash. Operations reads the hash aloud so the room hears a clean chain. The conference room door stays open. The badge rests by the phone where a camera can see it. Jamal sits at the side of the table with read-only access and takes notes in the service standards case form. He timestamps when the remote officer completed verification, when the confirmation arrived, and when the branch posted the audit notice at the entrance. He writes in simple sentences and adds links to the Q log and CRM screenshots. He does not editorialize, he just records. In the lobby, the tempo settles. Window 1 serves a customer who needs a cashier's check. Window 2 pauses while routing finishes. A mobile banker kneels by an elderly couple with a tablet and sets up a call so they do not have to stand any longer. The guard resumes a normal stance by the door and answers a question about where to find the sister branch. It is 3 blocks west. He gives directions and points to the posted notice with the public email for questions. There is no edge in his voice. The noise in the room sounds like a bank again. The teller and the supervisor remain at their stations while their sessions show locked. The manager on duty tells them quietly that HR and compliance will contact them and that they may take a short break if they wish. He does not lecture or scold. He keeps his tone even and procedural. The camera lets them walk out of frame without following. There is no slow motion, no close-up. Regional stays on the line while the remote officer wraps the transaction and sends a final receipt to the corporate email on file. The manager reads the receipt number. Operations attaches it to the incident case. Regional asks the CEO if there is any additional service needed today. He says that is all and asks for one thing to be added to the standards case before close. He would like an internal review of the branch's use of appointment-only language at a private banking counter, including a check for disparate treatment over the last month. Regional says understood and asks operations to schedule a 30-day look back across tickets, notes, and CCTV markers for the same counter. The case ledger grows by another line. The CEO asks if the branch would benefit from a brief huddle with staff to explain the freeze and the next steps so customers hear one message. The manager agrees. He gathers the available team near the Q screen and explains the freeze, the routing to sister locations, and the expectation to answer questions without editorial comment. He thanks Jamal by name for reading the data when asked and for documenting accurately. Jamal shrugs it off and gets back to work. The camera holds a second longer on him than usual because that is how you show a truth keeper without a speech. The crowd thinks. 2 customers thank the guard for the directions. Another nods at the CEO through the glass. The CEO nods back once. He does not use the moment to make a point. He does not turn to the camera. He signs the manager's copy of the receipt and asks the remote officer if the audit team needs anything else from him. They say they have what they need and will send a summary to the board liaison. Regional outlines the next hour. The audit notice email will hit the branch shared inbox. The manager will post it on paper and in the digital signage. Non-essential activity stays frozen until tomorrow at the same time. Mobile and sister sites are staffed to absorb volume. Training materials referenced today will be sent to compliance for review. Any press inquiries will route to corporate communications with the case number. She asks if everyone understands. They do. The CEO closes the call and pockets his badge. Before he leaves, he requests one more notation. He wants Jamal placed as shadow on 2 standards reviews this month and considered for a service standards lead role if performance holds. He gives no speech about merit. He simply ties recognition to behavior observed in the system. Regional says she will flag talent for review and copy the manager and HR. Jamal has no reaction beyond typing a final line in the case. Observed outcome. Client served. The branch stabilized. Routing is active. The manager walks the CEO back toward the lobby. He offers to open a side exit to avoid the cameras. The CEO declines and walks past the line like any other client with a receipt and an inbox notification. The posted audit notice breathes quietly on the door. The phones that were raised are now down. The only sound is the soft ring of a ticket call and the click of a pen as Jamal timestamps one last entry. The system has the room again. The audit notice hits the branch inbox at 2:29 p.m. The subject line states temporary freeze notice and the case number. The manager prints 2 copies and forwards the email to facilities for digital signage. He tapes one copy next to business hours and hands the other to the guard with a request to reference it if anyone asks what is going on. The notice explains that essential services continue through sister locations and mobile bankers and gives a live email for questions. It reads like every compliance message should read. Short, clear, time-stamped. Operations begins the export. On a secure dashboard, green checks appear next to items as they complete. CRM profile summary captured. Permission flags captured, Q-log captured, window 3 notes captured, device verification record captured, CCTV lobby clip from 210 to 220 captured, intercom audio references captured. The case just gets heavier, but it stays organized. The audience can see the stack and understand why this is not about opinions. It is about records. Regional asks the manager to collect written statements from the teller and the supervisor before they leave the floor. Not essays. Just a short form that asks for the stated basis of denial, the policy cited at the time, and any system message referenced. The manager provides the forms and a quiet space. He gives them 15 minutes. He keeps his tone even. He does not argue. The forms will speak for themselves. Jamal returns to his desk and closes the read-only window. He opens his queue again and takes a scheduled call for a customer who needs to set up a direct deposit. He explains the steps, verifies identity, and completes the task. He does it while still adding a final line to the standards case. Observed rule, VIP routing not followed at window 3. No personal remarks, only data. He sends the note and returns to service. The camera does not turn him into a hero, it lets him work. In the conference room, the CEO asks the manager to read back the tasks remaining. The manager lists them, complete the remote officer transaction, post audit notices, pause non-essential activity. Route priority items, secure device logs, schedule staff for retraining, file statements. The CEO nods once, thanks the manager for moving quickly once the facts were on the table, and says he will leave the building so the team can work. He asks for a copy of the posted notice and the receipt by email to the board liaison. The manager confirms and sends them while the CEO is still in the room. Outside the glass, the lobby looks ordinary again. A mother fills out a form at a side table. A student checks a balance on a phone. A teller at window 1 prints a money order and slides it through the slot. The volume level is back where it should be. A customer asks the guard if the branch is closing forever. He shakes his head and points to the notice that says 24 hours. The customer nods and leaves. No drama, just information. Regional remains on the line, but lets everyone breathe. She asks operations to schedule a 30-day look back for the private banking counter at this branch. The report will check arrival order versus service order, notes that read appointment only or guests only, and any use of intercom messages during active service. It will also compare outcomes by account tier. She adds a reminder that the review is about adherence to policy, not about catching individuals in traps. The audience hears the difference. This is not revenge, it is a correction. A short email from compliance arrives with a recertification plan. It calls for a 2-hour module on access and tier rules, a 1-hour module on de-escalation without intercom misuse, and a practical exercise on queue integrity. It proposes Jamal as a peer observer because he surfaced the VIP routing rule and documented accurately. The manager replies that he agrees. HR is copied. The thread stays professional and short. No praise language beyond the behavior observed on the system. The CEO steps into the lobby with the manager. Phone's lower. No one speaks to him. He shakes the manager's hand and says 4 words at a volume the mic still catches. Standards stay on. Then he leaves through the same door he used to enter. No side exit, no waves to the crowd. The camera follows only to the threshold, then returns inside. The story belongs to the branch now. Minutes later, a small clip from a customer phone circulates in group texts and local chats. It shows the intercom message, the badge on the counter, the word denied on a form, and a clock in the corner. It does not include names. It is not a rant. It is just proof that a system stepped in. The video will fade by tomorrow, but the audit will not. The systems hold memory longer than any feed. Back in the office, the teller and the supervisor complete their forms. The teller writes guests only and fraud risk without a code. The supervisor writes appointment only and safety concerns without citing a policy number. The manager scans the forms and sends them to HR and compliance. He does not add commentary. He logs the time. He logs who received them. He logs that the employees left the building without incident. Before the scene ends, the manager walks to Jamal's desk. He says that Regional has approved him to shadow 2 standards reviews and that he will be on the invite for the next training refresh. Jamal nods and says thank you. He asks if he can return to calls. The manager smiles once, then says yes. The camera holds on the cue screen. 3 windows, 2 are active, 1 dark. The notice on the door steady in the background. The branch is quiet, not because people stop talking, but because the process is speaking for them. An hour block hits the branch calendar titled Standards Review Hold. Facilities updates the digital sign so it rotates the freeze notice every 3rd slide. The manager forwards the case number to the district inbox and adds a short summary of actions taken. It is 3 sentences long and includes times, not opinions. He attaches the CCTV clip hash and the intercom clip hash so the district can verify chain of custody. Operations opens a ticket with IT access control to confirm the teller and supervisor badge status changed at exactly 2:27 p.m. The IAM dashboard shows 2 red entries with session end codes and a physical door access revoke. Those events join the case. Regional asks communications to prep a customer-facing script for staff to use on calls today. The script is 1 paragraph and says that the branch is conducting a standards review, essential services continue through sister locations and mobile bankers, and that questions can be directed to the email on the posted notice. No blame, no spin. The manager prints it and places a copy at each active window. Jamal reads it once and continues his calls. Compliance sends a short intake form to the board liaison for same-day awareness. It lists what triggered the review, what artifacts were collected, and what immediate steps were taken. It does not editorialize. The board liaison writes back with 2 asks. First, a 30-day look back for this counter at this branch. Second, a 7-day spot check across 3 nearby branches to see if appointment-only language is being misused. Operations replies that the queries can be built and scheduled by end of day. The timestamps in the thread are visible. The tone stays even. Inside the conference room, the CEO requests a copy of any training module that uses appointment-only or guests-only phrasing. The manager sends links to the last 2 refreshers. Compliance adds them to the case and creates a subtask to examine whether training language drifted into pseudo policy. That subtask gets a number. The audience hears numbers often in this part of the story because numbers ground the room. HR's first email arrives to the teller and the supervisor with standard language that an interview will be scheduled, that they may provide any materials they feel support their decisions, and that representation is available. It includes the case number and states that sessions were suspended pending outcome. It avoids adjectives. It tracks the law and the handbook. The mic does not linger on their faces. The story is not about shaming 2 people. It is about a system that corrects courses in view of the same public it serves. A district manager drops by unannounced and reads the posted notice. He asks the manager on duty if he needs extra staff to handle routing. The manager says mobile bankers are already on site and that sister branches were briefed. The district manager walks the floor once and leaves. He sends a one-line note to the regional that the signage is clear and that the lobby is orderly. That line joins the file too. Operations triggers the 30-day look back. The query will compare ticket call order against arrival order at window 3, list notes containing appointment only or guests only, map use of the intercom during active service, and segment by service tier. It will flag outliers for manual review. The camera cuts to a simple graph placeholder in the dashboard. No dramatic color, just a grid ready to fill. The CEO receives the final confirmation from the remote officer and thanks the manager for clearing the path once the facts were live. He does not give instructions on camera. He asked the manager to keep Jamal on his calendar for shadow opportunities this month and to copy regional when they happen. The manager says he will. He already has an idea of 2 reviews Jamal can sit in on without disrupting service. Jamal hears this only later in a calendar invite that lands like any other meeting. The invite contains a link to a standards case template and a checklist. Artifacts to capture, people to notify, words to avoid. Late afternoon, communications sends a short message template to sister branches. It tells them how to answer the question, is the bank closing, and how to redirect without commentary. It tells them to use the word review, not investigation, because the point is standards, not suspicion. The best sentences today are the ones that do not add heat. As the clock slides past 3, the branch looks like a branch again. The notice on the door does most of the talking. Window 1 continues steady. Mobile bankers finish 3 assisted calls in chairs near the entrance. The guard checks the tape on the notice and presses it down once more. Jamal completes a direct deposit setup and logs the time. He adds one more line to the case as a witness annotation. Customer flow is stable. Routing is effective. No further intercom use. Regional asks if the branch wants a short evening debrief by phone once the lobby closes. The manager says yes. He says he wants to make sure the staff hears the same message from him that they heard on the line today. He does not plan a speech. He plans an outline. What happened, what policy requires, what the next steps look like, how customers will be served, where training will focus. He adds one sentence at the end. We are not here to be afraid of standards. We are here to be measured by them. The CEO steps outside with his receipt and walks east toward the curb. He does not look back at the camera. The line stays open only long enough for operations to say that all artifacts have green checks. The case shows complete for phase 1. A second phase will open for the look back when the queries finish. The video does not sell triumph. It shows a bank choosing its own rules in real time and documenting that choice so it holds past sunset. Evening settles into the branch without ceremony. Doors lock at closing time. The audit notice stays taped up. The manager gathers the remaining staff in the small conference room for a short debrief on speakers with regional and operations. No speeches, just the timeline and the next steps. He reads the case number, the freeze window, and the routing plan that continues through tomorrow. Regional adds that the look-back queries are running and that preliminary indicators will be available in the morning. She reminds everyone that the case is about adherence to policy. The room breathes. Operations shares a status page URL that shows export completion, access revokes, and pending tasks. The teller and supervisor entries show red for suspended and green for custody of devices. HR has logged interview appointments for tomorrow afternoon with counsel present. Compliance has opened a review item titled Training Language Drift and linked the 2 modules that include appointment only and guests only phrasing. The team sees the list on the wall monitor. It is plain. It is enough. The manager repeats how customer conversations should go tomorrow. Use the posted notice. Say review and routing. Offer mobile or sister branch options. Avoid explanations that go beyond the notice. If asked about the incident, say a standards review is underway. If asked about the video, say the bank does not comment on ongoing reviews and provide the email on the notice. He asks for questions. No one has any. The instructions are simple. Regional turns to recognition and future roles. She states for the record that Jamal identified the routing rule in CRM, read the queue calls accurately, and documented without commentary. She has already flagged him to shadow 2 standards reviews this month and added him as peer observer during the recertification block for this branch. HR chimes in that a service standards lead role will open for internal candidates next quarter and that Jamal can be considered if performance continues. Jamal nods once. He asks if he can return to the phone. The manager says, yes. The board liaison sends a concise summary to the director mailbox. Trigger, artifacts captured, directives issued, actions taken, look back scheduled, recert path planned, truth keeper identified. 14 lines total, no adjectives. He adds a note that communications has a single paragraph script for inbound questions and that no brand names or individuals were referenced publicly. Legal replies with one instruction: preserve the full raw audio from the line today. Operations adds it to the case and stamps the retention period. The district begins the 7-day spot check at nearby branches. Operations pushes a template query to each site to capture use of appointment-only language at private banking counters, call order versus arrival order, and any intercom use during active service. The results will feed a single dashboard. The manager asks if he will see those results. Regional says he will be briefed on any finding that requires action at his branch. He accepts that. He has enough to fix on his own floor. Before the call ends, Regional sets the recert calendar, 2-hour module on access and tier rules, 1 hour on de-escalation without intercom misuse, and a practical queue integrity drill. Sessions will be mandatory and tracked by employee ID. Those who complete will receive an updated credential in the HR system. Those who do not will be removed from teller or supervisor duty until they do. The language is administrative on purpose. It prevents debate. The guard asks if his role changes tomorrow. Regional says he should continue normal posture, reference the posted notice, and avoid inserting himself into service decisions unless asked by management for safety reasons. He nods. He has been steady all afternoon, and the case will reflect that. The manager thanked the staff for staying on the line. He says the branch will be measured by how cleanly it routes customers tomorrow and how quickly it completes. He tells them to take the evening and come back ready to work a plan, not a story. They disperse to collect bags and shut down terminals. Outside, the CEO is already gone. He left with a receipt and an email confirmation. He did not leave a quote. He did not ask for a camera. The board liaison summary notes that the client requested a 30-day look back and gave specific artifacts to capture. It also notes a single sentence that will outlive today's video clips. Standards stay on. At 7:12 p.m., the look-back job for this branch finishes its first pass. Operations does not publish results yet, but the system flags 3 days in the past month where queue order and service order diverged at the private banking counter. It also finds 8 notes with appointment only or guests only that do not link to a policy citation. A quiet ping goes to compliance, a second ping goes to regional. In the morning, the manager will see an action list with times, not feelings. Communication schedules a brief staff email for 8 a.m. titled Talking Points for Routing Day. It is 6 lines long and mirrors the script on the counter. The subject line uses review, not incident. Legal approves it without edits. The systems are aligned. The last shot of the night is mundane. The branch lights click to night mode. The audit notice sits under the glass. The queue screen sleeps. The case number glows on the status page in the back office. Nothing cinematic happens, and that is the point. The branch will open tomorrow and meet its clients with a posted notice, a live routing plan, and a calendar full of recert. The story keeps moving, but the camera does not have to. The logs will do the talking. Morning comes with a clean rhythm. The branch opens its doors on the dot and the audit notice sits at eye level. A short line forms. The manager stands near the entrance with a calm script. He reminds customers of the routing plan, offers mobile banker support, and points to the sister branch for anything that cannot wait. Most people shrug, accept the plan, and move. The guard answers 2 questions and steps back. The room feels like a bank, not a stage. That is deliberate. At 8 a.m., communications send the staff email with talking points. The subject line reads, Review Day Guidance. 6 lines, all nouns and verbs. The manager reads it once in the back office and nods. He places a printed copy at window 1 and at the mobile desk near the door. Jamal handles the first call of the day, a small business owner asking if the account is safe during the freeze. Jamal says yes, explains that essential services are live, and offers remote help. The caller thanks him for being clear, he logs the time and moves on. Operations posts preliminary look-back indicators to the dashboard. 3 dates where service order diverged from arrival order at the private banking counter. 8 notes containing appointment only or guests only without a policy citation. A handful of intercom uses during active service. None of this is a verdict. It is a list to test. Compliance assigns a reviewer to each date and each note. The assignments carry deadlines. The board liaison receives the same view and adds it to the director's summary. The narrative stays short and numeric. HR confirms interview times for the teller and supervisor. Counsel will attend. The emails include links to policy sections and an invitation to add any supporting materials. The manager forwards the research schedule to the floor. 2-hour access and tier rules at the end of the week. 1 hour of escalation without intercom misuse next week. Queue integrity drill to follow. The staff replies with simple confirmations. The calendar shows real names and real times. It matters more than promises. A district manager stops by again early and stands with the manager for 2 minutes to observe flow. They notice how the mobile station is absorbing work that would normally clog a counter. They notice that people stop asking what happened when the notice and script do the talking. The district manager leaves without fanfare and sends regional one-line updates. Flow stable. Routing is effective. The sentence lands in the case. Jamal gets a calendar invite titled Shadow Standards Review. It is, for next Tuesday, 2 hours blocked. The invite includes a link to a template that lists which artifacts a peer observer should watch for and how to log a neutral annotation. He reads it over lunch without telling anyone. He returns to calls and continues serving. The camera tracks only the little motions that prove a culture shift. He stamps a timestamp. He checks a field. He keeps a steady tone. Midday, a local blog posts a short clip from yesterday that shows the intercom message and the denied stamp. The bank is not named. Faces are not shown. The clip rolls through group chats with guesses and emojis, and then, as those things do, fades. Communications has a 3-line statement ready if asked. It says, a standards review is underway. Services continue through routing, and all findings will be addressed through training and process. No adjectives, no names. The statement is used exactly twice. It does not trend, which is not a failure. That is the point. Back at the branch, the manager holds a 5-minute huddle between customer waves. He repeats the same 4 beats. We are in review. We route, we serve, we log. We do not editorialize. He thanks the team for sticking to the script and for answering with specifics instead of feelings. He does not call anyone out. He does not perform gratitude. He just marks behavior that matches policy and moves on. The room stays steady. Operations drops another artifact into the case, a simple chart of queue order versus service order for the last 30 days. It uses gray bars and black lines. No heat map, no red zones. The plot shows most days clean and 3 days off pattern. The reviewer notes connect those spikes to window 3. The chart will matter later when training aligns. For now, it sits in the file like a metronome. The CEO receives the board liaison's morning update on his phone. It is 14 lines again. It lists the dashboard indicators and the research schedule. It notes Jamal's upcoming shadow slots. It mentions that the 7-day spot check across nearby branches is running with the same queries and that ops will bring any actionable finding back to floor managers. The CEO replies with 3 words and a period. Keep standards moving. He does not ask for a call. He does not request an appearance. The file is the appearance. By early afternoon, the branch had served 24 people through mobile and window 1 and directed 6 to the sister site. A mother with a stroller thanks Jamal for handling her direct deposit while she sits. A contractor schedules a next-day appointment at the sister branch without complaint. The guard reminds a man who tries to cut the line that today is routing day and points him to the posted email for questions. He steps back into place. The noise never spikes. Compliance pings the manager to confirm the make and model of the intercom controller so they can map message playback against active tickets more precisely. He snaps a photo of the panel label and sends it. Operations love details like that. The audience does too, even if they do not know it. When the story works, it is because a room trades opinions for facts small enough to log. Before closing, the manager writes a short end-of-day note in the case. Routing held. No further intercom use. Customers served with posted scripts. Staff scheduled for recert. He adds one line about Jamal. Peer observer invite sent. He does not add adjectives. He clicks save. The branch powers down a little earlier than usual to prepare for the training block. The notice stays on the door. The logs carry the day forward. Tomorrow, the review deepens. The quiet gets louder. By midday on routing day, the first look-back results land in the dashboard. 3 dates in the past month show window 3 serving out of order at the private banking counter. Each date lists ticket times, arrival times, and a mismatch column. 8 notes with appointment only or guests only show no policy citation. Operations attach the raw extracts as CSV and the visual as a simple line plot. Compliance assigns case numbers to each date and each note. Deadlines appear next to names. The manager reads, nods once, and keeps the floor moving. Regional schedules a short call with the manager and the district lead. No rhetoric. She states that the freeze will end on schedule tomorrow, but that private banking service at window 3 will reopen only after recert completion and a queue integrity test. Window 1 and mobile will continue service in the meantime. The manager agrees. He prefers measured openings to rushed headlines. He posts a staff note with the plan and time stamps it. HR holds the first interviews with the teller and the supervisor. Counsel sits in. Each interview follows the same outline. What was the stated basis for denial? Which policy number and section? Which system message? Which training module informed the action? The teller references a list taped below the monitor and the phrase guests only. HR asks for the policy citation and message ID. None is provided. The supervisor references appointments only at private banking. HR asks for the section and cites the correct one on screen. It does not match. The transcripts enter the case labeled by time and participant. Operations confirms that badge access for the teller and supervisor remains suspended and that any reinstatement will require completed recert and compliance sign-off. The IM system records the condition in plain language. Devices remain in custody. For the audience, these entries show how a room moves past opinion and into rules that travel. Communications checks in to see if any customers have escalated beyond the branch email. The manager reports 3 inquiries, all answered with the script and routing options. No media calls. The posted notice continues to do most of the talking. The district lead thanks the team for avoiding ad hoc explanations. He reminds them that clean sentences protect both clients and staff. Jamal joins his first shadow block on a short afternoon review at another site, remote. He dials in with read-only access and a checklist. He watches the observer fields and timestamps without speaking. He notes the artifacts captured and the sequence used. He writes 2 sentences as a peer annotation. Protocol followed. Artifacts complete. He does not add opinions. He sees how a review runs when no one fights the system. He returns to his queue after, answers 2 client calls, and logs the times. Late afternoon, compliance completes the training language drift review. 2 modules used appointment only as shorthand without a policy citation. The recommendation is straightforward. Update both modules with the correct section numbers, add examples of compliant language, and include a short quiz that forces a citation before completion. Regional approves the change and sets a rollout deadline. The LMS will record who completes the new modules and lock teller and supervisor duties for anyone overdue. The fix goes live in a week. The board liaison sends a second-day summary to directors. Phase 1, complete. Freeze in effect. Artifacts captured. Interviews conducted. Look-back indicators show 3 dates and 8 notes needing review. Module updates scheduled. Reopen plan staged with recert and a queue test. Truthkeeper identified and placed in shadow blocks. He includes a line the directors will care about. Customers served through routing with minimal delay. The message is not dramatic, it is durable. Evening approaches. The manager runs a 5-minute staff huddle. He reads the plan for tomorrow. Freeze ends. Window 1 opens as usual. The private banking counter remains closed until recert and a queue integrity drill is done. Mobile bankers stay on site. He repeats the script for customer questions. Review, routing, service continues. No extra color. He thanks the team for keeping the day quiet. He thanks Jamal for handling calls and observing a review without disrupting service. Jamal nods once and goes back to his desk. Before close, Regional adds a small but important step. A sign will go on the private banking counter tomorrow morning stating, "Service temporarily relocated during standards recert." The sign will include the same email for questions. She asks the manager to photograph the sign in place for the case. He agrees. He already has the print queued in the back office. The CEO is not in the room. He does not need to be. He receives the director's summary and replies with 3 words again. Keep standards moving. He will not appear in a hallway cameo. The point of the series is that power is best shown in systems that operate whether or not the camera finds a face. The branch knows the rhythm now. When the door locks, the notice still reads a review in progress. When the lights dim, the case still shows times and artifacts. No flourish, just a line that tomorrow the freeze ends, the drill begins, and window 3 will earn its way back by passing a test anyone can audit. Morning opens with the freeze still in effect and a clean plan on the wall. The private banking counter carries a printed sign that reads, "Service temporarily relocated during standards, recert," with the same email for questions. The manager photographs the sign in place and uploads it to the case. He prints the recert roster with employee IDs and module deadlines. Staff take seats in the small room while window 1 and mobile bankers keep the lobby moving. Jamal logs into the learning system as an observer and watches completion statuses change from not starting to in progress. The Access and Tier Rules module runs first. It lays out the policy section that governs verified representatives at the private banking counter, the conditions for discretion, and examples of compliant language. It ends with a quiz where a correct policy number must be entered to pass. The system will not accept close enough. Staff enter the number and receive a green check. The manager does not cheer. He notes time, completion, and device ID for each employee. The system writes their names into the HR file. Next comes the de-escalation module. It shows when intercom use is appropriate and when it is not. It covers how to manage a line without general announcements that target a single person. It ends with a short scenario where staff must choose language that moves people without labeling them. The module annotates choices in the background. The manager watches results and prints a report. No slogans, no posters, just a list of who finished and who needs a second pass. While training runs, operations delivers the queue integrity drill plan. It is simple. At a set time, the branch will simulate 10 arrivals at the private banking counter with ticket numbers out of order and 2 legitimate walk-ups. The system will track calls versus arrival order and flag any jump. The manager will run the drill in view of the same camera that covered the incident. Jamal will observe and annotate as a peer. Regional will watch the dashboard and score the drill pass or fail. Private banking service at window 3 reopens only if the drill passes clean. The drill starts at 11. The team uses staff as stand-ins for customers. Tickets print with 1 number per arrival. The queue screen displays in plain view. The banker assigned to window 3 calls numbers in order and declines walk-ups by pointing to the ticket dispenser, not by saying guests only. Jamal notes the interaction and the phrase used. He logs the times when each call is made and when each ticket steps forward. The drill takes 7 minutes. Operations posts a score. 10 of 10 in order, 0 walk-up overrides, intercom unused. Regional marks pass and posts it to the case with a time and a green check mark. The manager removes the sign from the private banking counter and stores it, then posts a new one for the rest of the day that says private banking is open and that routing is still available if anyone prefers mobile or sister locations. He tells the banker assigned to window 3 to resume service using the script and to avoid commentary. Window 3 lights up for the first time since the freeze began. The lobby does not react. People care about service more than the backstory, which is exactly how it should be. HR closes the first interview round with the teller and supervisor. The transcripts show no policy citations, no message IDs, and reliance on training phrases that drifted from policy. HR schedules research for both and notes that any return to duty requires completion and a second Q drill observed by a manager. Compliance logs a note that device custody is held and that access remains suspended. The case now reads like a map, not a diary. The board liaison sends directors a midday update. Freeze lifts on schedule. Private banking reopened after pass-on Q drill. Modules updated and completed by floor staff. Device custody maintained. Interviews recorded. Window 3 under supervisor coverage by manager until further notice. Jamal recognized the case notes and slated to shadow 2 additional reviews this month. Directors reply with a short acknowledgement and no further asks. The file stays lean. The manager meets Jamal in the hallway and tells him privately that Regional has asked him to act as peer observer during the next research block and that HR will consider him for service standards lead next quarter if performance stays. Clean. Jamal says thank you and returns to his desk. He takes a call from a contractor who wants to confirm that a cashier's check can be picked up this afternoon. He explains the process, sets a time, and logs the call. The audio captures his tone, even, practical, no collar. At midday, Communications publishes the updated training modules to all branches with a 1-paragraph note that clarifies the policy section and the language to use at private banking counters. It includes a cutoff date after which teller and supervisor duties will lock for anyone without completion. District managers receive a short brief on the Q drill protocol so they can run it at any branch that needs a reset. The tools are small and repeatable. That is how you scale a fix. The CEO receives the midday note and replies with a sentence that is starting to sound like a signature. Standards stay on. He is not needed on site. He is not on camera. The branch moves under its own weight now, held up by modules, drills, and a posted notice that did more to keep a lobby calm than any speech could. By late afternoon, Window 3 serves 3 clients in order, the intercom stays silent, and the case logs 1 line that matters. Service resumed at private banking after verified, recert, and Q drill pass. The day closes not with applause, but with doors that lock on time and a staff that knows the rulebook by number, not by vibe. The look back closes with numbers, not headlines. 3 dates flagged at the private banking counter become 3 short cases with side-by-side charts. Arrival order versus call order, notes, intercom usage. 2 show sloppy adherence corrected by coaching. 1 shows a repeat pattern. Compliance recommends reassigning that teller to a back office role until a longer skills plan is complete. HR records the move. No ceremony. Just a role that fits policy. The 7-day spot check across nearby branches posts to the district dashboard. Most sites pass clean. 2 locations show appointment-only phrasing in notes without policy citations. Regional schedules their research blocks and Q drills for next week. The modules that were updated access and tier rules, de-escalation without intercom misuse are now mandatory network-wide. The LMS toggles a lock on teller and supervisor duties for anyone overdue. It is mechanical by design. Arguing with a system is harder than arguing with a person. Intercom governance gets a small fix that matters. Facilities adds a label by the controller with 3 allowed messages and a QR code to the policy section. Anything beyond the list requires manager approval and a case note. The label is dull and life-saving in the same way seatbelt signs are dull and life-saving. The audit file includes a photo. Communications publishes a 1-page job aid for private banking counters. It fits on half a clipboard, when to route, when to serve, which words to use, which words to avoid, and the exact policy numbers. It includes a reminder that discretion exists to help service, not to gatekeep. That sentence is the closest the materials get to poetry, and even then it reads like a rule. The branch receives final notice that the freeze is lifted. Window 3 has reopened under manager supervision and passed a live queue integrity check with actual customers. The case moves from active to monitoring. A small banner in the dashboard turns from yellow to green. Recognition happens the same way the rest of this story has happened, by entry, not applause. Jamal's file shows 2 standard reviews, logged neutral annotations, completed modules on time. Regional invites him to co-facilitate the next research block as a peer observer and signals HR to open a service standards lead posting next quarter with internal candidates favored. The manager tells him in a hallway sentence and gets back to work. Jamal prints a new Q chart and tapes it near window 3. He says nothing. He does not need to. The board liaison closes the director loop with a short report. Trigger, decision, directives, artifacts, training updates, results of the look back, and staffing actions. 2 paragraphs at the end matter for the series you are watching. First, a quarterly transparency sheet will publish anonymized metrics, queue integrity scores, module completion rates, intercom use during active service, and corrective actions taken. Second, the company signs a modest partnership with a Service Quality and Civil Rights Council to review the training language annually. It is not branding. It is a calendar invite the public can outlast. The teller and supervisor who started this chapter sit for final HR meetings. The teller accepts reassignment with a skills plan tied to modules and a second Q drill before any return to client-facing work. The supervisor does not pass recert on the first attempt. A retake is scheduled. Access remains limited until completion. The file carries no adjectives. Outcomes hang on numbers and dates, the only way to make them stand when tempers cool. Before the camera leaves, the manager posts a tiny sign no one will notice unless they look. Service standards are measured here. It is not for customers. It is for staff who need permission to lean on the book when a line gets loud. The CEO receives the final summary on his phone while he is already on to another day. He replies with 4 words he uses like a habit. Keep the logs open. The phrase is not a slogan, it is a practice. When systems remember, rooms behave. The last frames return to what matters. A customer seated at a small table while a mobile banker sets up a direct deposit, a guard answering a route question, window 3 calling numbers in order. Quiet competence. The notice comes down, the case slides to archive, the tools remain. Then the T's. Another lobby, different badge. A first-class lounge where a gate agent says guests only to a verified ticket holder. An intercom chirps. A weight and balance monitor blinks in the corner. Countdown appears on screen. 7. A familiar voice, off camera this time. Log everything. Cut to black.